Jaya Nilo Premadana Karuna Prachur Madana Karuna Prachur Heno Prabhu Kota Gela Charya Thakur Nachaya Thakur Kahamora Swarup Rupa Kaha Sanatan Rupa Sanatan Kadasa Raghunatha Patita Pavan Patita Pavan Kahamor Bhatta Juga Kaha Kaviraj Eka Kali Kota Gela Goranatara Gela Goranatara Bhashane Kuti Bo Mata Annale Pashibo Korangangunera Nidhi Kotagele Pamo Gele Pamo Se Samba Sangira Sange Je Koilo Bilas Ira Sange Se Sangana Paya Kande Narotamada Jayanilo Premadana Karuna Prachur Heno Prabhu Kota Gela Charya Thakur Jaya Vaishnav Thakur, Vaishnav Thakur, Vaishnav Thakur, Jaya Vaishnav Thakur. Vaishnav Thakur, Jaya Vaishnav. He who brought the treasure of divine love and who was filled with compassion and mercy, where has such a personality as Srinivasacharya gone? Where are my Swarup Damodar and Rupa Goswami? Where is Sanatan? Where is Raghunath Das, the savior of the fallen? Where are my Raghunath Bhatta and Gopal Bhatta? And where is Krishna Das Kaviraj? Where did Lord Gauranga, the great dancer, suddenly go? I will smash my head against a rock and enter fire. Where will I find Lord Gauranga, the reservoir of all wonderful qualities? Being unable to obtain the association of Lord Gauranga, accompanied by all of these devotees in whose association he performed his pastimes, Narottam Das simply weeps. Srila Narottam Das. Oh, yeah. So now, oh, thank you. Oh, it is here. I thought someone had taken it. This is an ecstatic. Nimai. Nimai Dasi Tijai. Nimai. Nimai Dasi. Okay. So we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. All right, we'll be reading this. Okay, let me just get this started because I forgot my recorder here. Narayanam namaskritya narang chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudiriye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta prayesha bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavatyuttama shloke bhakti bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord, who is glorified in the greatest of songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. So we're reading today from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 8th canto, Withdrawal of the Cosmic Creations, 3rd chapter, Gajendra's Prayers of Surrender, text number 25. Jijivishe Naham Ihamuya Kim Antar Bahish Shabbatayebha Yonya Ichami Kalena Nayasya Viplavas Tasyatma Lokavadanasya Moksham Jijivishe Nahami Hamuyakim Antar Bahishavitiye Balyonya Ichami Kalena Nayasya Viplavas Tasyatma Loka Vadanasya Moksham. Oh, okay, let me see. Jijivishe Nahami Hamuyakim Antar Bahishavitiye Balyonya Ichami Kalena Nayasya Viplavas Tasyatma Loka Vadanasya Moksham. Jijivishe Nahami Hamuyakim Antar Bahishavitiye Balyonya Ichami Kalena Nayasya Viplavas Tasyatma Loka Vadanasya Moksham. Jijivishe Nahami Hamuyakim Antar Bahishavitiye Balyonya Ichami Kalena Nayasya Viplavas Tasyatma Loka Vadanasya Moksham. Jijivishena Antar Bhischavitaye Bhayonya Ichami Kalena Nayasya Viplavas Tasyatma Loka Vadanasya Moksham Jijivishena Yakim Antar Bhischavitaye Bhayonya Ichami Kalena Nayasya Viplavas Tasyatma Loka Vadanasya Moksham. No? Aviral. Jijivishena Hamihamu Yakim Antar Bhischavitaye Bhayonya Ichami Kalena Nayasya Viplavas Tasyatma Loka Vadanasya Moksham. Anyone online?
Jijivishena Ihamuyakim
Jijivishena
Antar Bhischavitaye Bhayonya
Antar Bhischavitaye Bhayonya
Ichami Kalena Nayasya Viplavas
Ichami Kalena Nayasya Viplavas
Tasyatma Loka Varanasya Moksham.
Tasyatma Loka Vadanasya Moksham.
Can I try?
Go ahead.
Jijivishena Ihamuyakim
Jijivishena Yakim
Antar Bhaishcha Vita Eva Jonya
Antar Bhischavitaye Bhayonya
Ichami Kalena Najasha Viplavas
Ichami Kalena Nayasya Viplavas
Tashatma Loka Varanasya Moksham.
Tasyatma Loka Vadanasya Moksham. Jijivishe, wish to live long. Na, not. Aham, I. Iha, in this life. Amuya, or in the next life. I do not wish to live. Upon being saved from this dangerous position. Kim, what is the value? Antaha, internally. Bahihi, externally. Cha, and. Avritaya, covered by ignorance. Ibayonya, in this birth as an elephant. Ichami, I desire. Kalena, because of the influence of time. Na, there is not. Yasya, of which. Viplavaha, annihilation. Tasya, that. Atmaloka avaranasya, from the covering of self-realization. Moksham, liberation. Translation, Gajendra says, I do not wish to live any more after I am released from the attack of the crocodile. What is the use of an elephant's body covered externally and internally by ignorance? I simply desire eternal liberation from the covering of ignorance. That covering is not destroyed by the influence of time. Purport. In this material world, every living entity is covered by the darkness of ignorance. Therefore, the Vedas enjoin that one should approach the Supreme Lord through the spiritual master, who is described and offered prayers in the Gautamiya Tantra as follows. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Can you get those curtains for me? I offer my respectful obeisances unto my spiritual master, who with the torchlight of knowledge has opened my eyes, which were blinded by the darkness of ignorance. Although one may struggle for existence in this material world, to live forever is impossible. One must understand, however, that this struggle for existence is due to ignorance, for otherwise every living being is an eternal part of the Supreme Lord. There is no need to live as an elephant or man, American or Indian. One should desire only to achieve liberation from the cycle of birth and death. Because of ignorance, we consider every life offered by nature to be happy and pleasing. But in the degraded life within this material world, from the life of Lord Brahma down to that of an ant, no one can actually be happy. We are making so many plans to live happily, but there cannot be any happiness in this material world. However, we may try to make a permanent settlement in this life or that. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So, I'm getting more senile by the day, and I forgot to read about Ishvara Puri. So we will read a little bit at the end of the class. So Gajendra is offering his prayers, and he will continue to do so. And each prayer, subsequent prayer, practically all of them, he offers his obeisances to the Lord. But in the previous prayer, actually the one before that, he described that those who are ekantino yasana kanchanatam vanchanti yevai bhagavat papanna adyadbhutam tat charitam sumangalam gayanta ananda samudra mugna. So he's describing how those who are one-pointed devotees of Krishna, and they don't want anything from him, nakanchanatam vanchanti, they're not praying to him for any benediction or anything. They're just glorifying him. This is anyabhilashita shunyam, even up to the point of liberation. This is anyabhilashita shunyam. This is the famous verse by Rupa Goswami describing the real standard of pure bhakti. So, and this is what we're aiming for. This is what Lord Chaitanya taught: the absolute highest standard of selfless, unmotivated, not unmaterially motivated devotional service to Krishna. So we learned from Sridhar Swami in the purport to the very, very first verse, the second verse of the Bhagavatam, Dharma Project, the Kaita Voja, that the Bhagavatam, which is, after all, the final word, this is the final source of knowledge, the authorized commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. Vedanta means the ultimate knowledge, so that's the ultimate knowledge, but it needs explanation because it's just these aphorisms, very puzzling. So the Srimad Bhagavatam is that authorized commentary. It's the ultimate source of our knowledge. Lord Chaitanya taught the teachings of the Bhagavatam, and Srila Prabhupada chose to make that his main translation program. So this Dharma Project, the Kaita Votra, here in the Bhagavatam, all cheating religions, all cheating dharmas are kicked out. And in his commentary, which is the primary authorized commentary, Sridhar says that includes moksha. That includes liberation. So what is liberation? Well, liberation means getting free from all of the pains and suffering of this world, and right, which are highlighted, if you will, by birth, old age, disease, and death, and the threefold miseries. Right. So even the desire for moksha is a personal desire. That's a motivation, which is removed from this Bhagavatam. And but Gajendra cannot come to that standard. So he's saying in this verse, here's what you can enjoy. Here's what the level of pleasure, transcendental pleasure you can have if you're really free from any kind of desire. Nakanchanatam vanchanti. Atyadbhutam tat charitam sumangalam gayanta ananda samudra mugna. This Prahlad Maharaj says the same thing than Shringadev. He says, for those who are on that standard, don't want anything from the Lord. They're just interested in serving the Lord. Their only motive in doing anything is the pleasure of Krishna. They don't worry about themselves. Then what happens? Ati adbhutam. Who can guess what that means? Does anyone know what adbhutam means? Wonderful. And what does ati do? It increases. Ati means very, extremely wonderful. Extremely wonderful what? Tat charitam, his activities, which are also very auspicious to hear and chant. So what happens when someone gayanta sings them or chants about them, who is in that state of complete purity? Atyaban charitam zamangam gayanta ananda samudra magna. Now we should know the word samudra because we got a big samudra right here. Right. And Ananda, you know, so it's an ocean of nectar, ocean of bliss, ultimate happiness. Magna. One dives in, becomes immersed in the ocean of bliss. When such a devotee, who is completely selfless, glorifies the Lord and sings of his pastimes. And that's what's going on in the spiritual world. We get a wonderful insight into that by reading the Bhagavatam. What are the gopis doing when Krishna's in the forest? There's separation. They're suffering this extreme separation from him. They're singing about him. There's like four or five actually different songs of the gopis, Gopi Geet. The one that's known as the Gopi Geet is the famous Jayati Te Dikam Janmana Vrajak. I heard it by a lecture by Vaisheshika recently, and he quoted one of them. Every Sankirtan devotee probably knows this. Tavakatamritam tapta jivanam kavabiriditam kalmashapaham shavana mangalam shirmadatatam bhuvagunanti ye buddhidajanaha. He called this the anthem for the book distributors. This is a kind of an anthem, means something that you always sing for inspiration. They sing the national anthem. So what does it say? The gopis are saying here. And those who read the CC, and remember, this was when Maharaj Prataparudra, there's a whole pastime in the Antilila describing how Maharaj Prataparudra was trying to get the personal darshan of Lord Chaitanya, but he couldn't. Because Lord Chaitanya is such a strict sannyasi, he never would associate with kings, because they're just, most kings are simply bewildered by wealth and power and sense gratification. So the sannyasis don't, associate. So he refused to meet with him. Then he was advised, I think, by Swarup Damodar to, when Rath Yatra takes place, there's a certain point they come to. I forget the name of it now, but it's a place where they kind of take a rest, and there's gardens on both sides. They say they resemble Vrindavan, and everyone can come and offer their food offering, to Lord Jagannath. They come and they offer him in their hands. They make them. So there's thousands of people coming, and so Lord Chaitanya traditionally he would go into one of those gardens and take a rest because he's dancing. So he would have a little interlude there. So he said, go to him at that time, devoid of your royal dress. You just dress as an ordinary person, and you chant. I think these things advise him. You massage his legs, which are need to massaging and physically. If you at that point after all the dancing, and you chant the 5 chapters of the rasa dance. So he was doing that, and Lord Chaitanya was much appreciating it, and everything. And he didn't externally he didn't understand who was doing it. That this was Prataparudra, So he gets to these prayers of the gopis, very famous. Jayati te dikam jan. These prayers are sung after Lord Chaitanya disappears from the rasa dance because they got a little proud. Remember that? And so then actually he goes alone with Radharani, and they're wandering in the forest, and she gets a little proud too, This is all past by the pastime. It's just, I can't walk anymore. You'll have to carry me. So he says, get on my back. So she tries to get on his back, and he disappears. Now he disappeared from her also. She's also, and all the gopis. The other gopis say, who is that special gopi? Anayaradito nunam. This is the source of her name, this verse. Anayaradito. She must have worshipped him much better than we did because he went alone with her. So they're wandering, and they're mad. They're reenacting Krishna's pastimes. They're inquiring from the trees, from the vines, from the earth. Have you seen Krishna? So they're in this madness of separation. And finally they come upon some footprints. So there's Krishna's footprints, and here's the second set of footprints. This must be the gopi who he went with. She's Aniyaradito. She's that's where her name comes from. She worshipped much better than we did, therefore she got to be with him alone. But finally they come upon Radharani herself, and she's also lamenting in separation. And she tells the story how, oh, I got a little proud, So now they're all together. So they go to the bank of the Yamuna and they start singing this song. You see. And I remember, this is a little interlude, it was after the morning program, and I was coming back maybe to shut the curtains or anything. There was no one else here except this one Indian gentleman. And he was standing over here, and he was chanting those prayers. Jayati te dikam janmanavajak. And so I joined him, because I know those by heart. At least I did all of them now. I know I'd have to review them. Anyway, they're very, very famous. So within those prayers, this wonderful meter, some of the other ones, the gopis they have different emotions. Sometimes they're complaining to Krishna, accusing him of being callous, and sometimes they're just pleading to him to please come back. So they say about Brahma. They're complaining about Brahma. Atati adbhavanam nikananam tatihugayate tvama pashyatam akutalakuntalam shimukangshate chadudikshitam paksmakridvasham. My dear Lord Krishna, when you go to the forest during the day and we can't see your beautiful lotus face surrounded by your curling locks of hair, then even the moment seems like a yuga to us, And we condemn Lord Brahma, the creator, for creating these eyelashes, which impede our vision of you for a split second. This is famous. So that's one side where they're doing it. But then the other one is Patisudan Vayam Brata Bandavan Atabadangite Chachutagata Gativedastavo Gita Mohita Gita Vayoshitak Kascha Jainashi. We left our husbands, we left our babies, we left our whole family and came out here to the forest, attracted by a beautiful flute. Now, after all of that, who but a cheater, would leave women in the middle of the night, in the middle of the forest? So they're condemning him, He likes all of this, he can hear all of it, So then they come after, I forget what number it is, and there's this Tapakatarmatam Tapta Jivanam. Now, as soon as I read that, this was back in Miami when I was working on the book, and I said, "Oh, this is perfect for the book distributors." It just. So Tapakatarmatam, the nectar of talks about you. Okay, Tapakatarmatam. Then they describe Tapta Jivanam, is the life and soul, the jivana of those living beings, the conditioned souls like us, who are burning in this fire of material life. Tapta jivanam. Kavabididitam. It is spoken and glorified by great kavis, great poets. Kavabididitam. Kalmashapaham. And immediately negates all of the impurities and sinful reactions of this world. Shavana Mangalam, very auspicious to hear. Srimad, full of spiritual potency. Atatam, Bhuviganantiye, those who are chanting your glories, spreading your glories on this earth, Bhuviganantiye, Buddhidajana, are the most munificent welfare workers. You see? Now, you can see how important that is, that wonderful meditation for the book distributors. Dvijamani, you're assigned to learn that verse today. I'll help you. Anyway, work on it. It's got that beat. You got a good sense of rhythm. So when Lord Chaitanya heard that verse in the middle of all the others he was chanting all of them, the whole rasa dance. So that's chapter 31. So there's 29, 30, 31, 32, and 33. So he immediately got up and embraced Maharaj Pradavarudha. He didn't know who he was still. He was in this ecstasy of separation and everything. So he said, "You are the most munificent. You are the most munificent, because you're giving me so much nectar." You see. So now, how does that relate to Gajendra? So Gajendra, in his verse that I mentioned, Ekantino Niyasana Kanchanatam, that those who are free of all material desire, pure devotees, who sing your glories, describe your extremely wonderful pastimes, they dive into an ocean of nectar. You know? But he's implying, I'm not like that because I have a desire. Please save me. Save me. That's a material desire too. And you find like great devotees like Haridas Thakur, he wasn't doing that. He just kept chanting, when he was being beaten, He was just immersed in that nectar. And of course he was saved, like anything. So anyway, this is what we find with Gajendra. He's in this situation where he's terrified, of being killed, and he's praying to the Lord. Now, I think I misspoke yesterday, because Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, okay, the best thing is to worship me without any material desire. That's pure devotion. Sarvadam parajita mame kam sharanam. Just take shelter of me. And always think of me, manmana bhavaman bhakto madhyaji mam namaskaru. Those four things, and certainly you'll come to me. But he also says in the 7th chapter, chatur vadhava jante mam jana sukratan orjana. There are others who worship me, chatur vadhava jana sukritina, who are sukriti. Now before that he says there's the duskritis who never surrender to me. Namam duskritano mudha papadnyate nararama. They're asuras, they're demons. They're bewildered by this material world and material desires, you see. But there are others who are pious. They're not duskriti, they're sukriti. Duskriti means those who are very qualified, but they're demons. They're using it for making atom bombs and, and AI. This is not the proper use of intelligence. But there are others, Chatur Vidha, 4 divisions, but Bhajantema, who do worship me, Jana Sukritina, who are pious. And what are they? Arto, Jigyasur, Artarti, Jnani Chambaratarshaba. So we'll just review those. This is very important. Now, Gajendra perfectly fits into Arta, A-R-T-A, mean those who are in great distress, you see. And that's a very common motivation for people to go to church and worship God, to please relieve my distress, like that, whatever it is. And then there's those who are simply curious, what's going on in that church, what's going on in that Hare Krishna temple. I got this little card, I don't know what it said, they gave me this address, so let me go, So they're pious. Out of all the millions of people in San Diego, we get a few hundred, come. But, so they're also pious. Arto, Jigyasu, and then Artarti. Now Prabhupada usually says these who need money, who are poverty stricken. That you can sing the Artarti, yeah, they want money. But I would say that they mostly fit into the Arta, the distressed. If you need the rent money and they're going to get evicted, that's a great deal of distress, so the money. So the commentators say that the other main part of this class is like Dhruva. He began worshiping the Lord, and Narada Muni, gave him the means by which he would turn his motivation. That's the whole point. Because he wanted a kingdom. It was like kind of childish, his little 5-year-old. His stepmother insulted him, so I'm not going to take that lying down because he's a Kshatriya, I'm going to get a kingdom better than So he went to his real mother. And the interesting thing is his stepmother, Suruchi, she was the beautiful one, the favorite. She told him, you'll have to, go find God. And she also told him that. So when he went to his real mother and told her, she said, well, I can't help you, but your stepmother was right. You can get relief from God. Where's God? Prabhupada adds this part, it's not in the Bhagavatam. He said, I heard he went, the sages go to the forest to find God, so he headed to the forest, right? And who comes on the scene? Narada Muni. He always comes at the exact time and gives the exact right instruction for whoever it is. So he tested him, said, you're just 5 years old, come back, they'll teach you yoga. Thank you very much, O sage, but I can't wait, I'm going to find God, I said, okay. So he gave him Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya and instructions on rudimentary deity worship and meditation and austerity, and so he did all that. And but his motivation was the kingdom, right? But that motivation changed, and that's the key part about bhakti. That however you may come to it, if you practice bhakti and you chant Hare Krishna and you come in touch with Krishna, he'll purify that desire So that you come out, if you follow it properly, with just one desire, to please Krishna. You're chanting Hare Krishna because you heard that Krishna likes to hear his name chanted. All right, I'll chant it. And in the process, you become ecstatic because you're associating directly with Krishna in the perfect mentality of just wanting to please him. I love to include this in the classes. It's kind of, you've probably heard it before. In the second chapter, second canto, third chapter, text 10, I believe it is that famous verse, Akama, Savakamova, Mokshakama, Udaradi, Tivrena, Bhakti Yogena, Yajeta Purusham Padam. This one, Dvijamani knows very nicely. So, this comes after a whole laundry list of demigods you can worship for specific things. You see? You're not worshiping Krishna then. You just worship the demigod for that. You're not going to go back to Godhead. So after all of that, he says, but whether one is devoid of material desire or full of all this material desire, or you want moksha, which we know from Sridhar Swami is also a material desire. Tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham padam. If one is intelligent, udaradi, then he will worship Krishna with great intensity. Tivra means intensity, with force and focus. Yajeta Purusham, the Supreme Person, Krishna. In the purport to that verse, which is a very important verse, Prabhupada goes on, he describes what real desirelessness means. Real desirelessness. We're not into desirelessness. We're into getting rid of material desires and replacing it or purifying it to the one desire, to please Krishna and Guru and Vaishnavas and everybody else, by giving them Krishna consciousness. That, in other words, you're not this is your only desire, that others be happy. Sarve sukhano bhavantu, I think is a phrase. Isn't it? You've heard that before? Sarve sukhano bhavantu. May everyone become happy. But the only way for that to happen is by becoming devotees. So anyway, in the purport here, Prabhupada describes what desireless means. And in the book as it's written, as the editing, it now says, to only look something like this, to only look to Krishna for one's happiness. Now it seemed reasonable. No one, a bell didn't go off when that's been read by so many devotees, so they would have written me about it. Even the editors. It's just more or less right. Yeah, I'm not going to look to, sex and drugs and everything. I'm going to look just to Krishna for the happiness. But no, that's not what Prabhupada wrote. That is not what he wrote. He said to only be concerned with Krishna's happiness, not to only be concerned from getting your happiness from Krishna. I could show it to you later exactly. So that is the essence of what we're aiming at, is that to take one's pleasure only in giving Krishna pleasure. And that includes, of course, in bringing other people to Krishna consciousness, which he wants more than anything, to spread Krishna consciousness. It includes giving pleasure and service to the Guru, Dasa Dasa Anudas, right? This is but the idea is that that is a great source of pleasure for when one's heart is pure. If one can do anything to please Krishna, and the famous story we heard recently, which I'll just recount the essence of, Krishna had a headache, right? This is a very instructive story. So how can we help you? Well, there's only one thing, and it's the dust from the feet of my devotees. That will cure my headache nicely. So they go to the ordinary devotees in Vrindavan, and they say, no way, that'll be a tremendous offense. It's great. It's a great boon to get the dust of the lotus feet of the pure souls, like the Guru or Krishna himself, and put it on one's head. But the dust from my feet, cactus feet, is would be a tremendous offense for me to let that happen. So no, I can't do it. I'll go to hell. So they came back and said no one would do it. It's they didn't want to go to hell. So okay, now go to the gopis, see what they say. Said, dust from our feet will cure Krishna's headache? Anytime, yes, we don't care to go to hell. We'll go to hell as long as Krishna's headache is. That's the standard of pure devotion. That's why they are the highest. And that's why Lord Chaitanya taught that. So back to our famous verse. Tavakatam. No, so then there's this phrase that I just wanted to share with you on this one same point. And that is from a Sandarbha by Jiva Goswami. I don't know which one it is. I haven't been able to find it. There's this little, because these are, it's almost like an aphorism or a sutra. So it's like this. It goes like this: Bhajaniya padama purusha sukhamatra swasukatvam. This is the standard, what we have to aspire for. So Bhajaniya means the worshipable one. Who is that? Padama Purusha, the Supreme Person, the worshipable Supreme Person, Krishna. Sukhamatra, only the happiness of the Supreme Person, Krishna. Sukhamatra, matra can mean only, is happiness. Swasukatvam is where one finds one's own happiness. Swasukatvam, that alone is one's own happiness. You see that? Now we're trying to do that, and that's why we find so much happiness in Krishna consciousness, because we're following the instructions, trying to chanting. We may be spacing out, but we're trying to chant. Worshiping the deity. So that's the source of our happiness. But if we're more conscious of it, the reason I'm doing this, I'm chanting. Now Krishna will be really happy, even more happy, if I fully concentrate on this holy name, and if I don't do any nonsense to become distracted, and control the mind. Hare Krishna. So in other words, all the efforts that we're trying to make to improve our devotional service and execute our devotional service, if we're conscious of Krishna and that this is pleasing to Krishna because we've got the instructions from the spiritual master and the Shastra, then that will be even more pleasing to us to know that, okay, we're doing this, I'm sincerely doing this, and I'm trying my best. So that's the essence of Bhakti Yoga, is to take one's pleasure in the pleasure of the Lord. And Gajendra is not at that point yet. He is terrified. And he remembered, in his terror, he remembered this prayer, right, from his previous life. And then we're hearing it, And it's full of obeisances, which is very good. But he's still in that mood of, please save me, please save me, please save me, please save me. But we find also that, this is also part of the pure devotee's rasa, that gives Krishna a chance to save his devotees. When Draupadi was praying to Krishna, please save me, first she was trying to save herself, right? But how could she? There's these powerful Dukshasana and Karna. So then she abandoned that and just said, Krishna, it's up to you, please save me, And then he reciprocated with the infinite sorry, and they were frustrated, right? So that, and as was pointed out last night with an amazing class by Guru Krishna, I was going to almost add something at the end, but I decided not to. But I just realized, because he just quoted the verse, the famous verse, Brahmante Brahmante Kon Bhagyavan Jeev Guru Krishna Basare Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. I said, oh my God, that second line is how Guru Krishna is planting the seeds of devotion by giving that class. Guru Krishna, by his mercy, Guru Krishna Basare Pai Bhakti Lata. I decided not to do it. I picked up the mic. I said, no. So you're hearing that little joke. But I think he's aware of that because he's quoted that verse, and when I tell him about it, he was. But anyway, so Gajendra, his desires need to evolve a little bit. This is develop. And this is the wonderful thing about Krishna consciousness. Back to that verse from the Bhagavad Gita. Those who are pious and approach Krishna, just like Dhruva, with material motivation, if they do it with great sincerity and consciousness and concentration on Krishna, then he'll purify that desire. And they'll lose the desire for whatever material thing they're into, and they'll become attracted to Krishna. This is the whole idea. The very name Krishna means all attractive one, who is the ocean of all bliss. That's what it means. You know that verse? Krishna bhuvavachaka sabdo nashtanirvata vachaka tayaraikyam param brahma Krishna ityavidiyate. You've heard that one, Dvija? It's in the CC. So the syllable Krish, see, they all have meanings. So the syllable Krish means the all attractive one. That's the pulling you. And na is the bliss. You see, Krishna is always in bliss, and we can take part in that bliss. And therefore, you put those two together, and it becomes the Param Brahma, the Supreme Brahman, known as Krishna. There's also one for Rama. Ramante yogino nande satyananda charatmani iti rama padainasu param brahmamidiyate. The yogis, they enjoy unending happiness. Ramante yogino anante. Satyananda, true bliss. Chidatmani, which is a spiritual, the soul, spiritual bliss, Chidatmani. Therefore, iti rama padenaso padam brahmama. Therefore, the word rama, which invokes spiritual bliss, it means enjoying spiritual bliss. Therefore, the name Rama is equivalent to Param Brahma, just like Krishna is. That's both of those verses are there in the CC. So, where does that leave us? So Gajendra is at this point of really wanting the Lord, and he's meditating, and finally, when he finishes with the prayer, he lifts up the lotus. You see, he lifts up the lotus with his trunk and offering it to Narayan, and he comes down, and he blesses the crocodile. Turns out he's a Gandharva. He cuts off his face, his life is over, but he comes out as a Gandharva, and he's reinstated, And Gajendra is saved, and I didn't look ahead if there's a future, but he is blessed, and by getting saved, and also seeing the Narayan, and he can see, like that. So, all right, any discussion on these points? Yeah, I'm going to read. All right, so let me read Ishvara Puri. Sorry, my brain isn't working like it used to. Okay. Now, we're going to read this, and then I'm going to make one point. It might be controversial, but we'll see. Receiving the seed of Krishna Prema from Madhavendra Puri, Sri Ishvara Puri became the spiritual master of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Madhavendra Puri couldn't move at the end of his life. So doing all humble services, Ishvara Puri even cleaned up his stool and urine. Ishvara Puri helped his guru to remember Sri Krishna by always chanting Hare Krishna and telling Radha Krishna's pastimes. Pleasing Madhavendra Puri by these menial acts, Ishvara Puri received the treasure of Krishna Prema from his spiritual master. Sri Ishvara Puri again showed exemplary humility, the ornament of a true Vaishnava, when he first met Sri Advaita Acharya. Finding Advaita Prabhu busy serving his deity, Ishvara Puri sat down patiently and shyly. Although he was a Vaishnava sannyasi, Ishvara Puri introduced himself with, "I am a Shudra," of the lowest class. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the guru for the whole universe, honored Ishvara Puri by taking initiation from him. One day, Ishvara Puri came to Lord Chaitanya's house. The Lord personally cooked and lovingly served his spiritual master. After prasadam, Lord Chaitanya rubbed sandalwood paste on Ishvara Puri and offered a fragrant flower garland. By his own example, Sri Chaitanya showed how to properly worship and serve the Guru Parampara. Once, while passing through Sri Ishvara Puri's birthplace, Lord Gauranga became filled with rapture. Taking some dust, the Lord said, "This dust is my life and soul." His samadhi stands in the 64 samadhi there. Now, there's a little bit more about Ishvara Puri in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and I think in the Chaitanya Bhagavatam, though I don't recall. So it's mentioned there, it may be in a purport, how Ishvara Puri came to Lord Chaitanya. He had written a book, and Lord Chaitanya was known as Nimai Pandit, a very learned scholar, So he asked him to edit the book, and Lord Chaitanya was very reluctant, to change to do anything with the words of his spiritual master like that. But I think Ishvara Puri prevailed upon him to do it. He wanted it as a service. Now, there's also this famous reference to Ishvara Puri when Lord Chaitanya meets Prakashananda Saraswati in Benares, in chapter 7 of the Adi Leela. Very important chapter. That chapter was published first as a separate book, because Prabhupada wanted to come out as soon as possible. Why? Because there's this whole discussion of Mayavad. The whole pastime where Lord Chaitanya went to Benares, he instructed Sanatana Goswami, and this may have happened before then, he was just dancing and chanting in Benares. Benares is known as the city with many Mayavadis, and even then it was many more. And this Prakashananda Saraswati had thousands of disciples, he was the chief Mayavadi. So he was criticizing this sannyasi. Who is he? Because Lord Chaitanya seemed to be one of them, because there was no Vaishnava sannyasa as we know it now. The Babaji, they would go with Babaji. So when Rupa Goswami, and they took Babaji, and they were just wandering around, but they were writing books, and they were preaching that way, and locally. So anyway, Lord Chaitanya was chanting and dancing, and they kept criticizing, and it was Chandrasekhar, and was it Murari Gupta? I forget who he was staying with. But they were very upset by that, when to hear that. So they approached Lord Chaitanya, can you please go and meet with the Mayavadis and explain, exactly what you're doing in that way, and somehow, stop it so we don't have to hear this blasphemy. So Lord Chaitanya wouldn't even associate with the Mayavadis. He agreed on that basis because his disciples were troubled by it. So he goes there, and famously, he comes in. I think it's a big hall. He's got thousands of disciples, and no, it was a home of a Brahmin. I don't know, but anyway, he went. Tapan Mishra. That's the other devotee. Yes, thank you. And so he sat down where everyone's washing their feet. They wash their feet. It's a dirty place. And so they immediately say, "Oh, Maharaj, come from this dirty place." Because he's effulgent and he's glowing. He put on his glow. So immediately they said, "Oh, he's really Brahman," because they're into everybody's Brahman. Narayan. Anyway, so he came out and they started questioning him, why are you doing this? He says, and then he said, and this is the point of why I'm telling the story. Because they said, why aren't you studying Vedanta Sutra with us? This is all Mayavadi sannyasis, they do that. That's what they're supposed to do. So my spiritual master, Ishvara Puri, told me I'm not qualified to study Vedanta Sutra. You may have heard Pavamana's class a few weeks ago, Sunday class. He cited this. And he cited it in such a way, as he said, Lord Chaitanya's spiritual master, Ishvara Puri, told him that he wasn't qualified, like that. I forget the context. And I said, really? Because, anyway, he went on and said, therefore he told me to just chant and dance. And he cited this verse. We all know this verse, right? Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Eva Kevalam, Kalo Nasteva, Nasteva, Nasteva Gataranyata. If you want to achieve the supreme goal of life in this age, when dissension and chaos abound, there is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way that can ever be found but to chant Krishna's name, but to chant Krishna's name, but to chant Krishna's name with a stout-hearted vow, and to pray, O Lord Krishna, O friend of the poor, let my head ever unto your lotus feet bow. Please, I beg the forgiveness of the sages in the great, because I had to add that extra line, which isn't in the Sanskrit verse. But anyway, it works. So, he told them that's why, and then there was another verse, which unfortunately slips my mind now, that he said is the most important verse in the whole Bhagavatam. And it describes the process of chanting the holy name and going into ecstasy. It's part of the teachings of the Yogendras, 9 Yogendras, 11th canon. So, the Mayavadis were, getting curious and everything. And so I think they asked him, well, can you please explain the Vedanta Sutra to us? So he started explaining it, and he convinced them all. They were completely converted. He explained that the real message of Vedanta Sutra is Bhakti, just like the real message of the Bhagavad Gita is Bhakti, and the real message of the Bhagavatam. Not anything else, not Mayavad. So he converted them all, and the thousands. Once he converted the leader, they all became his followers. So, but there's now in that idea that Ishvara Puri would tell his disciple, no, you're not qualified to study. You just chant Hare Krishna. But he asked him to edit his book, knowing that he was Nimai Pandit. I mentioned that. So that doesn't compute. And and I looked in the Chaitanya Bhagavatam, I couldn't find any, that would have been told as a pastime there. This was just something that Lord Chaitanya told, because he obviously was the most qualified. When he began speaking, just as with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, his erudition and his knowledge just came out, and he had the effect of convincing him that the real import of Vedanta Sutra is bhakti, pure bhakti. That's the whole idea. So anyway, I'm going to do some more research, and if not, I'm going to tell Pavamana, no. Ishvara Puri never told Lord Chaitanya, yeah, not smart enough to study the, you should just chant Hare Krishna. The point is that the chanting of the Hare Krishna is is better than studying the Vedanta Sutra. Or let's say it's the crown jewel of studying Vedanta. Those who really study it become chanters and dancers. All right, I'll leave it at that. Anyone want to comment or ask a question online? Oh, I'm sorry, we have a local. Go ahead, Babu.
Thank you, wonderful class. I have two small questions. First question is, I'm wondering about what happened to this Mayavadi sannyasis who gathered to hear the Vedanta philosophy. Is there anyone who particularly became known and famous?
You're talking about in Benares?
In Benares, yeah.
Yeah, it's mentioned there. In other words, Prakashananda was the leader. He became a follower of Lord Chaitanya, and with him all of the other Mayavadis. So you can imagine the kirtans that were going on after that, and the streets of. Although now, I think at this time there are still some Orthodox Mayavadis now. There was, but yeah, it's a wonderful story. He converted them all.
I guess I'm wondering if they saw Lord Chaitanya once again, and it's somehow mentioned again that they were chanting, some more history of their activities.
Maybe I don't recall reading that in the CC, which is our main. But I'll look into it. I'll find out if there's any pastimes with the former Mayavadis. It'd be very enlivening.
Another question. It's when you mentioned about Ishvara Puri receiving Krishna Prem from Madhavendra Puri when he was happy and pleased with him. How does that exactly work? If you, at the end of life, your spiritual master is leaving the body, and then in the strike of a moment, he gives Krishna Prem to you. Is that how we should understand this? Is
that what it said, that it was only at the end there that he got Krishna Prem?
I guess maybe I misheard, but that's what I thought.
Well, no, it did say that he. Well, let me just look at it. Was that was when I read from the Samadhi's book.
Yeah, Samadhi's book.
Okay, well that I can easily put. This is a short entry actually. Yeah, it just says here, receiving the seed of Krishna Prem from Madhavendra Puri, Sri Ishvara Puri became the spiritual man. Madhavendra Puri couldn't move at the end of his life, so doing all humble services, Ishvara Puri even cleaned up his stool and urine. Ishvara Puri helped his guru to remember Sri Krishna by always chanting Hare Krishna and telling Radha Krishna's pastimes. Pleasing Madhavendra Puri by these menial acts, Ishvara Puri received the treasure of Krishna Prem from his spiritual master. Well, he must have been really advanced to be chosen out of all the disciples to do that before. So, on what level he was with, not having Krishna Prema. Well, before, speculating, I'd like to just, we can look into more details in the Chaitanya Bhagavatam and just see exactly what's explained there. There's some nice commentary by Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. But one thing I can add just real quickly is that's the context in which that incredible verse was spoken by Madhavendra Puri, which is the essence of all bhakti poetry. So this one we should know. Aidina dayardanata he matodana takadavalokise vidiyam todaloka katadam dayata brahmati kinkaromyaham. Is anyone familiar with that verse? This one we should look up. So what it is Madhavendra Puri was uttering this verse again and again, and Ramchandra Puri criticized him. One of his disciples who went off the edge, went off. And he said, "Get out of here! If I see your face when I leave my body, I don't know what's going to happen to me." Kicked him out. Later he went to Jagannath Puri and criticized Lord Chaitanya for eating too much. Anyway, so that's Ramchandra. But Ishvara Puri was there. And the significance of this is that this is an expression of extreme separation spoken by Srimati Radharani. And I remember when I was editing the book, and there's a before you get to this verse, and now, we're going to hear the famous verse of Madhavendra Puri. This verse is the supreme essence of all bhakti poetry. Like I said, wow, the more you chant this verse, it's like rubbing a gem; it becomes shinier and shinier. So what does it mean? Ai is a word of desperation. Like in Ai nanda tanuja kinkaram. You know, this is the same meter. Ainanda chanuda kinkadam patitam mam shame bhavam mudo kripayata vapada pankajas titatulis sadashang vichintiya. This one we should all know. This is part of Shikshastika. But anyway, Dina Dayadra. Dina, you know what Dina means? The most wretched and neglected, you know. But your heart is melting. Ardra means moist. Your heart is melting with mercy for those who are most wretched, you know, your devotees, which is me. Dina Dayadra is Radharani. She's speaking this verse. Dina Dayadra Nata He, O Lord, O Master. You are the Lord of the most wretched who are, and your heart is melting out of love for them. Hey, oh Lord, listen. Hey, Mathura Nata. Okay, so she's in Vrindavan, he's in Mathura. So this is the whole context. She's separated. Mathura Nata. Kadava Lokise, when will I see you again? Simple. Kadava Lokise. Aidina Dayada Nata. Hey, Mathura Nata. Kadava Lokise. Vidiyam Todaloka Katadam. Without seeing you, my heart is breaking. Vidiyam Todaloka Katadam. Daita, oh my beloved, Brahmanti Kinkaro Miham. I'm just so confused and bewildered by everything. Daita Brahmati Kinkaro Miham. What shall I do now? It's just a very simple, you know, a verse of separation. But because it's spoken by Srimad Radharani, the Krishna, it's the essence. And when Lord Chaitanya, I think he started chanting that verse in this with this. When did he chant that one? Anyway, but this is the essence of all this separation of Madhavendra Puri teachings, and so that's you know Ishwar Puri was right there. He was listening to it and he passed it on to Lord Chaitanya. So that's the essence of the whole pastime. Okay. Oh, we have another local question. All right. I might as well put my clock away. Not you.
Thank you for the class. It's very wonderful. My question is, it is known that Lord Chaitanya, when he took maybe
Mayavad sannyas?
No, it's like
Yeah,
Puri
not from Ishwar Puri. Yeah, well, Ishwar Puri was like his original initiation, but the sannyas guru was.
It's sannyas.
Yeah, different.
I
Who is it? Keshava Bharati. Because, like I said, there was no sannyas as we know it now. You know, the sannyasis.
So he during this sannyas, he like initiate his guru to Mahamantras and takes.
You know, because that gives, you know, then he could go out and preach, you know, and everyone would honor him and everything. And he said, okay, just chant this mantra, you know. This is for this age, this is what's necessary, you know. So thousands and thousands. Okay. Anyone online there? I think they all went out in Sankirtan. Okay. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.